motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4 is public comments. It's time and place for any comments on any item for those that are not on the agenda. I do have one person who's turned in a speaker registration card. Mr. Dennis Dietz would like to address the council tonight. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay, do you,
Go ahead. Stand up. The floor is yours.
The Pine Ridge Island is.
I'll let you speak to it right now, and then we'll
Okay.
come back to you if you want.
I read through the documents that were part of the agenda, and I guess, to me, I'm concerned that there's no enforcement, real enforcement to it in term, it's basically coming down to those 4 individuals, and if they ever tire of putting money into it or of, voluntarily maintaining it, then then it's going to have to come out. If there's no money in there to take it out, then the city is going to be stuck with doing that. And I don't see where it's tied to anybody's lot for the city to be able to, assess anybody for that. And so and it's kind of, I don't know what the current financial situation is, but looking at it here, they've raised enough money to maybe pay for the landscaping, but and they were talking about in the letter we received from the folks that want to maintain it, they were trying to raise $7,500 for the engineering and legal costs. So I don't know where that is with all of that. And if, I don't know, when I was using the other exit right now, because ours is closed, it's, people are creeping forward that are turning left so that people going right can get around them and get going. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be the same issue in Pine Ridge when you start getting cars backed up there. Instead of having a left turn lane where you can get that group going left out of the way more or less, so the right people turn right, people turning, it's going to have those issues of trying to creep out far enough to maybe let somebody by. So I just think there's some issues there that would be better left not having that island in there. And I just don't see for the long term here, as long as these folks are willing to keep doing this stuff, I'll be okay. But someday, if they move or get tired of it or something, I don't know, what do you do? So, and there's no way for the city to really, truly force these people to get that done, so, without any kind of assessment or something. So that's just my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council at this time?
Are we going to continue on the?
You'll deal. Yep, we'll get to you at the end.
Or you want to wait?
Yep. Yes. Moving on to consent agenda. Is there any additions, corrections? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
So. Second.
Roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Dvorak,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet.
Motion carries. Item 6 is new business. Under new business, RTM Plat 1. It's now the time to close the regular meeting, no public hearing on the rezoning request for RTM Plat 1, located at 206 North 2nd Street. Ask the clerk when the notice was published.
September 30th?
Has there been any comments for or against?
No, sir.
I'd like staff to provide a report.
This is a parcel of land that is shown in your agenda packet that for a long time, long before I was ever here, has been noted as U1. U1 is basically for city utilities for areas where they need land for a water plant or a water tower. For some reason this area was zoned U1. The current owners are asking that this go to M1, which is industrial, which reflects the zoning of the rest of their property.
Anybody present who wishes to be heard for or against the rezoning? Need a motion to close the public hearing and open the regular meeting?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
DeVore,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, consider motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2016-2600, approving rezoning of 0.533 acres from U1 to M1. Need a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
DeVore,
Yes.
Mordini.
Motion carries. Item C, as an option, to consider motion to waive the second, third reading of the ordinance 2016-2600.
I would make a motion based on what we heard.
Yeah, I'll take yours.
I have a question. Last meeting, I asked if this had to be done before the site plan, and I was told that the site plan has nothing to do with this rezoning. So then my question is, if it has nothing to do with this rezoning, why are we in such a hurry to get it done? It's not typical to waive readings without a good reason.
I wanted to give the council the option. The number of people that were at the hearing at the P&Z is the same number that were here to speak tonight for or against this. There is no hurry. I just want to give the council the option, and that's why the word optional is there. Council has the option. If you choose not to, you do not have to make the motion. And again, after the second reading, we will have option on there as well, unless instructed otherwise.
Did the people submitting it ask that it be waived?
No, they did not.
I'll still make a motion. I don't see any objection or reason. Everything that they brought forward last time seemed to make sense, so I don't know that I would characterize it as being in such a hurry as being less in the way. So I'll make a motion to waive the second and third reading.
Second? I'll make a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Lane,
No.
DeVore.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2,
Does not now require a supermajority?
I don't know, does it?
It might require 4.
All right, good catch. Motion failed. Bring it back next week, 2 weeks. Item 2, consider motion to approve resolution 2016-96, amending the fire department EMT/paramedic starting time and paid on-call wages. Chief, that's yours.
Yeah, I included a fairly lengthy memo about this. Really, the driver of this is our part-time staffing and truthfully being able to find part-time people. And so we're losing them. This month will be the third month in a row that we've posted an opening. And I still have 3 part-time positions open. Most of the people that have left most of them have went somewhere else for employment. And so I did a little survey with other departments in the area that also use part-time paramedics and EMTs and where they were, and basically found we were drastically lower. And so the market's pretty tight, to be honest, especially part-time medics and EMTs. And so that's caused a little bit of supply and demand, if you will. And we were, I would say, probably the lowest for wages. And so I certainly can't say for sure that this will be the fix-all, that I'll be able to put a posting out with a new rate and get 15 applications next time, but I think this gives us a fighting chance at it. Also, a couple years ago when we went to the wage and step scale, we tied the part-time and POC wages together, and since we've done away with that, this is also splitting that back out so that we can pay part-time people differently than our pay per call rates, and so we just even those amounts off and left those quite a bit less than what we're with that part-time wage scale. Let's see. That's really the gist of it. This should put us pretty competitive from a starting wage perspective and probably more middle of the line on an average hourly rate. Happy to entertain any questions.
Questions, comments, motion?
What is our starting wage? I assume that's our starting wage that you published?
Yeah, that's the starting that's on there, yep.
Okay. So ours would be minus 3 years, that's our starting. On a list of our part-time wage scale. Is this what you're proposing, or this is what we have now?
The wage scale that's listed on there is what we're proposing. Right now, we're at $12.57 for an EMT and $14.95 for a paramedic.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
DeVore,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3, consider motion to approve Resolution 2016-90, approving the updated 28E agreement for cooperative public service with Polk County.
That's mine, sir. Thank you very much. Every so often, the agreement for cooperative public services, which is basically who takes care of what streets, which is closely mirrored to the IDOT that comes out every 3 years, is redone. This is that agreement with just a few small changes. Polk City this year, or under this agreement, will be taking care of the paved area on South 15th Street, which is by the marina, and the county still will take care of the gravel areas. There's also a slight change due to the recent annexation of the Sally Jensen property that slightly changes the percentages back and forth in the responsibility areas of the agreement, which is in the appendix. Outside of that, everything remains the same.
How does this affect you?
We're over there anyway plowing, Winding Creek Circle, but we'll just have to now plow that paved portion. Yeah, it'll take a little bit longer, but not that much.
Not a huge impact.
But it is an addition.
Sure. That's what I wondered.
That was my question, how that was going to impact current staff.
Okay. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
DeVore,
Yes.
Mordini,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, Pine Ridge Island, under item A, consider motion, as an option, consider motion to approve Resolution 2016-93, approving an easement agreement between Pine Ridge Estates Management LLC and the City of Polk City. Gary.
Okay, because if the item is not on the council agenda, council cannot take action on anything that's not stated. So Pine Ridge has 2 optional resolutions to review. Option A is basically approves the island and approves the plan that is part of your agenda packet. Item B is if you do not want to approve the island and want to go with turn lanes, you would take a look at Resolution 2016-94. Now, with that all said, the information that council requested has been obtained and has been made part of your agenda packet. The easement document has been signed and notarized. The easement plan, the easement engineering plan with dimensions, as well as the landscape plan, has been approved by city engineer. The Pine Ridge timeline is in there. They are going to, within 14 days of DOT paving nose of the remaining island, rake and clear the weeds, etc., with an April 1 of any remaining debris, April 15 of, I assume, 2017. Their timeline shows 2016. Complete installation of plants and bushes, and by April 30th, the project is complete. They also show that they have $3,350 currently in their account for the financial responsibility. And they have their operating agreement included in the documents as well for your review.
Can you address Dennis's comment regarding the enforcement?
Enforcement would be 30 days. If the island is out of compliance at any one time, a notice is sent to the LLC, and if 30 days elapses, the easement becomes null and void, and the city would remove those items that are in and take whatever other action is necessary, and could even go back and pay. So basically, it voids the easement, and the city can move forward with whatever direction it sees fit at that time.
At cost to the city.
At a cost to the city.
With no means to recoup that cost whatsoever.
That is correct.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
That is correct. There would be no way to go after. There's no assessment process here to make them pay to put it back in as.
Wasn't there, kind of along the lines of what Dennis talked about at the beginning, wasn't there at the beginning, because this is what many of us found was pretty crazy that anybody would agree to, that this was going to be tied to residences?
It was going to be tied to residences.
And why did we let that go?
They came up with an LLC. The attorney said that our teeth was in the 30 days.
But is that 30 days as good as our other agreements that don't work?
Where
we give them 30 days and on day 29 somebody comes in and fixes something and then it starts over in 2 more days?
Yeah, it's like your mowing notices and everything else, yes, sir.
So it's not worth anything?
It's the notice that we have to go through, yes, sir.
Questions? Comments?
Well, I'm disappointed that parameter was removed and it was not brought up. I don't know how something like that can just slip under the table.
I have nothing to attach to now.
Go ahead. Because basically we have no teeth, was what I'm trying to get at. And it's a rather large item.
It was explained to me that the teeth that we now have is the 30 days, but I realize that doesn't pay to take the island out and to pave that island.
So is it, I can get Ron here real quick and come back.
My only question is if it's removed now and paved over, that burden's on us also, right?
That would be, yes.
Okay.
So everything that was asked for by council at the last meeting has been approved submitted, the boxes have been checked as far as what was asked for from,
We have everything except for the one item that Councilman Mordini brought up, which is the absolute ability to go back and collect for those items that were not done.
was that brought up was there anything brought up before tonight that raised that concern, like in the last, through communication with the
In the
LLC?
conversations between both attorneys, our attorney and their attorney, Pat White, they came to the conclusion that the 30-day was enough of a trigger. Whether council believes that or not, I'm going to leave that up to council. I have my own thoughts on this, but that is the way that agreement is written.
But to Ron's point, we would either gets taken out at our expense
Now or later.
now, or if something was to happen, worst case, it would have to come out then, so.
Other than now as well, the project's being done, it'd have to be a special.
But we've already gone through all of these. We've gone through how many times to put this off to now. I'm thinking benefit of the doubt is the way that we need to. We've vetted enough, I believe.
Well, hindsight being 2020, I would have voted no, because this has turned into been a big disaster, and I'll never vote for a project like this again. It's been taken advantage of. We've left and inserted things out of the agreement. We've come to resolutions on slowing traffic patterns, which by the time you cut the island back to the point of view, will not slow any traffic pattern. And we've set a horrible example for what's to come. I'm very disappointed in our legal staff. They know how much of a problem we've had with enforcing a weed ordinance, and they're going to put another 30-day term. That's worse than our weed ordinance, because now you have 30 days instead of 6 days to wait till day 29, cut your bush, and wait until we have to complain the next month. And it's going to fall on the council, not here, but sometime down the road, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, another council will be sitting in our position, taking care of the problem that I got to admit I voted for just to give them a chance.
Well, I think that could happen, but I'm inclined to agree with Dave. We are taking a leap of faith with this. We don't have maybe the ideal enforcement, but we did set out a list of things for that group to accomplish, and they've done that. Dennis, I share your concerns as well. What is going to happen in however many years when Dennis and Renee and Dan, I think you're passionate about this, and I think that we're taking a leap if we were to go ahead with this, that as you mobilize people in August, you will continue to do that with funds and the work going forward. So I'm concerned about that, but I do think that giving them the benefit of the doubt because they've done what we've asked them to do, and I expressed my frustration last time, and I'm not backing down on what I said on how this worked out, but at this point, they've done what we asked them to do. It's going to cost us one way or another. If there's not other comments to be made,
Hold on, Dan's got a comment.
I've said from the very beginning, in order for me to vote for this, there has to be absolutely no public money going into it whatsoever. With this easement agreement, I see no way that there isn't going to be public money having to come in here at some point. And at that point, it'll be a lot more expensive than it would be now. I also am very disappointed in our legal staff going totally opposite the direction of council and thinking they can supersede the council's direction and set their own policy. Very, very disappointed.
My only comment would be that this is what happens when you go outside the rules. You don't follow the rules. I felt this way from the very beginning. You make exceptions to rules here. You have to make exceptions to rules somewhere else. This problem never should have been here. It should have gone away in 2008 or whatever year it was that went in. I don't remember. because it was done illegally then, and therefore my opinion has not changed.
I have a question. So if legal would have followed that direction, you would feel differently?
Yeah, there would still be teeth in the agreement. I agree with Dennis, the agreement has no teeth.
Well, but your point that we're into this for engineering and legal fees. They're paying for a portion of that. I think that we gave them a fair amount to pay. So if we vote this down, because of our decision in August, then we're voting to spend money on this. So whether we spend, to say that no public funds are going to come for this is done. That's impossible at this point.
Well, this project's gonna cost us money down the road, whether we pass it or not. Because if you think that everybody else is gonna come to this and say, well, you've already set precedent, you let them put in their flower bed there, and change the scope of the plans because they decided to push it in a certain direction, how are you gonna say no? I agree with Ron, I feel bad. I should have went back and I should have voted right alongside Ron that night. And I'm not gonna go back to my words, to the extent of the only thing, to me, tonight, it's either we delay it again 2 weeks and you get those two things that Dan has mentioned wrapped up, or I vote no. I don't know why we're even paying a legal bill on this. It blows my mind that legal, knowing how big of problems we've had, would put a toothless thing in front of us. I'm dumbfounded that we're even writing a check to the legal firm for that. I mean, I can't even begin to go down that road. And so if we're gonna have an agreement that basically keeps us on the hook for everything, shame on them just as much as anything, because she knows the problems we've had. And I just think that's the lack of doing your job.
I guess the thing I would ask is, what is it that is missing? I wasn't at that meeting, and so I'm trying to learn. I'm looking at the agreement right now. There is a full indemnification provision which provides that the grantee shall indemnify, defend, and hold the city harmless from any and all claims, demands, causes of action, losses, damages, liabilities, and expenses, including without limitation reasonable attorney's fees and court costs related to this area. Also, it provides specific enforcement provisions which says that in the event that the city does have to take action under the easement to enforce, the city is entitled to recover their reasonable attorney's fees for any party that has violated the terms of the easement. And so, as I sit here, we've got an indemnification, a hold harmless, and an enforcement provision that also provides for the recovery of attorney's fees. And not being at that prior meeting, I'm trying to figure out what other provision is it that...
That sounds great in legal speak, but what we've known up here over the years is no matter how many fancy terms you put in that flowery sentence, if you have a 30-day, just like our mowing thing, you use 7 days, you give a 30-day, oh, you have to correct it. What people do then is on day 29, you come in, you click your marigold, it's now below the definition, and we play another game for another 29 days. In the meantime, we pay your firm to say, geez, there's nothing we can do.
Well,
I mean, to me, the original agreement that came up that Dan's mentioning, there was homes and things tied to this, or an LLC, where it wasn't just some little cloud that's floating out there, and we can play tough, but have nothing to go back on. That's been known from the beginning. The attorney we have expressed that. I don't know. I mean, we're talking on behalf of the city as a whole. And if we're going to bring an agreement forward that's just flowery, one of us might as well just put a document together that says we'll take care of the flower bed and not pay you $1,500 or whatever they charge for that particular thing. And this has happened before, so you don't need to read the whole agreement. There's an out to the agreement. It's the same out that we have in all our clauses. And to me, you either have something that sets the tone and sets the parameters, or we just have something we can talk about every couple of months when it's an issue.
I don't think we specified necessarily. I think what you're getting at is if it's tied to a property, then we can put a lien on the property if in fact something is causing us to not be able to fulfill their agreement.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we specifically asked for them to come back with a homeowners association type agreement.
There had to be somebody we could assess and hold to the fire. 10 years from now, you guys are for one reason gone or another, there's only 4 names listed on there. LLC dissolves. You can talk about get all the reasonable attorney fees all day long. But there's nobody to send a bill to, there's no teeth in it.
And I think
This
it
has
is,
zero to do with any of you that are sitting in the office. It's, I could be gone tomorrow, you could be gone, we all could be gone tomorrow. But what holds everybody together 10 years down the road? And the reason I say that, we still see things from administrators from way before any of our times that are still haunting us.
Not
Because,
before my time.
well, you know where I'm going with this though. And so I think we owe it to everybody in the city on that. Now,
LLC dissolves.
having said that,
took out the gravel roads and the horse.
if that messes, well, then I'd say we just stop. And I know we said we weren't gonna do this last time, but if this is something that some people
These are all
forget,
avenues, which.
then I won't bend on it.
It's happened time and time again.
Maintain a pledge of cash bond. These are all things that could be explored, absolutely, if you are correct.
So what are some options? What did you just say?
Pledge of property, we could have bonding requirements, we could have cash bonding requirements. Where did you, there is a dedicated account. There are irrevocable letters of credit. There are many avenues, depending on how much teeth you want to put into this. Yeah, you could draw it in, no question about it. You could require a cash account and say, look, you're gonna have to maintain a cash account of $10,000 at this bank, and it's gonna be, you can't draw it down, it's irrevocable letter of credit at a bank, something like that, to make sure that the funds are available. If you said, we want to have property available to assess in the event of a violation, of course, that can be drawn in.
And I think those were the
These are all-
discussions that took place on the first night when the discussion around a homeowners association came up. Following that meeting, they went to an LLC, which I think changed the general conversation that came up in the
I
agreement.
guess from a collectability, if I may.
Yes.
And I wasn't there, but from a collectability standpoint, even when you have a homeowners association, you still need to have the ability to have property. If you have a homeowners association which has no property, what do you really have? And so the fact that it is an LLC versus a homeowners association versus an individual, I'm not looking at that as being the heart of the issue. If you're looking for real property to back it up, you need to make sure that that is defined real property and it's pledged. So it's out there. If you've got an LLC with no property, a pledge can be meaningless. If you have a homeowners association that has no property and no assets, again, it's meaningless. Because when you're looking at the liability is, in my opinion, established. But you're looking at beyond that to the collectability. What's going to be there in the event that we need to go and get that money, if there are damages. And in order to do that, you need to look at hard assets, making sure they're pledged and making sure that they're secured, which can be easily done. The easiest way is to form a cash bond.
And why wasn't that brought up then? Isn't that what we pay an attorney for, to protect the city?
I wasn't at that meeting, but I certainly, I'm bringing it to you now.
Well, I guess what I would ask then is,
Members of your firm were,
Excuse me?
say members of your firm were at every meeting.
well, then I guess, in all fairness to the people here, I know what I said last time about 2 weeks or nothing, but this is something that I believe a couple of us now believe that was installed there. I would ask that to be corrected, and I don't think the city should be billed from the firm for not doing work that they should have did to protect the city. I don't think we should pay to have you go back and click. You were supposed to be looking out for our best interests. That, to me, that's not doing that. If I wanted a Craigslist contract or something off the internet, I would go on the internet and type up, whatever, city contract for this. I just think that's very poor representation.
I will, and I appreciate your comments, but I will say that there have been a great deal of conversations that did take place between your law firm and their law firm and you guys and here. And I mean, there was a lot of interaction that did go back and forth. And so everybody I thought was doing their job too. So I appreciate your comments. I just want, I don't think that Amy was just taking it lightly based
This
on
goes all the way back to the paving issue.
I know.
In north of town, we had the same oops then too.
I'm just saying. You guys have any comments you want to make?
Do you understand where we're coming from at all?
We do. I don't know how much more we're going to fight it, to be honest with you.
Not asking that. This really has, quite honestly, nothing to do with the four of you sitting here.
Well, if you come back and ask us to do a cash bond and do things like that, I honestly don't know how much more we're going to fight it.
Well, with all due respect, there are examples all over this town and many other towns, every town in Iowa and the country where schools, churches, everybody has a different idea of what looks beautiful and perfect. And some people plant great big bushy plants and everybody thinks it looks nice. I can think of a church on Lincoln Way that dug ditches in front of their building and planted their trees and their bushes down in the ditch. I'd walk by and think that looks pretty bad, but other people thought it looked beautiful. 30 days, I'm not sure what that means. I have neighbors who are letting their lawns grow up in weeds. Nothing ever seems to affect how that looks.
You couldn't say it any better to me. I
All
understand
right.
completely where you're coming from.
So, no matter how you set it up, there's still factors that are very much subjective. And also, there's a certain amount of trust that we wouldn't be here asking for that island to stay if we didn't have pride in our neighborhood and want to maintain it. We said that from the get-go. And there are so many examples of neighborhoods all over Des Moines, Ankeny, Ames, all the suburbs around here. They're putting in islands. The other day I was speaking to someone on the phone and they said, I should take a picture of this. There are 3 maintenance people out here planting plants in the new island going in up here at Ankeny. It isn't something that people are rejecting for the reasons that you seem to feel that it's something so negative for Polk City. In fact, people are embracing
I
the
don't
island.
know that it's negative. I want to be clear on that. I think, well, just a second. I don't think that
I
it's,
was speaking, so I.
and I understand, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to interject here. I don't think that this is negative on the island. It's
Donald
more,
Trump,
okay,
If you're not careful.
okay. My point is that this isn't negative on the island. I think that he was clear when he said this is more about setting a precedence, and it's a bigger issue than the island,
But would
is what
you
this comes
agree
down
that as
to.
we started this, it started simple and it's just gotten bigger and bigger in every meeting?
I would
More
agree that the
demands
first
and
email that came to the city threatened a lawsuit.
I don't believe that at all.
You wrote it.
I have a copy of it.
Well, it wasn't a
It's been
threat.
through legal, you need to talk to legal counsel because it was.
It wasn't a-
No, the first email that we got that addressed the island being taken out said, and I quote, "What do we need to do? Hire an attorney or threaten a lawsuit?" Something to
Is that
that
a fair
effect.
statement?
Okay.
I think we ended up having to do that, actually.
And I don't think we ever wanted to go there.
Well, I didn't certainly either.
The
and that
point here
was
is
me.
exactly what you just mentioned to me, which is, we're saying the same thing. You may not see it that way, but like the grass issues you say, if you don't have parameters in place, we have a grass ordinance that basically, for all practical purposes, is unenforceable. It goes back to the house, you assess the house, and guess what? 2 weeks later, neighbors are knocking on my door saying, when is she gonna cut her
Do you
yard?
have any examples of where it's something that other cities are able to enforce? Because I see it everywhere. Ames, I work for the school
I don't know what
district.
Ames, I don't know what the
school
surrounding cities use
yards
for
would
their.
get to looking bad and I would be
Right.
embarrassed. And
I'm not
nobody
saying
would-
those things don't look great. I'm not doubting you at all. And as you've seen, my comments had zero to do with you that sit here. That's why I'm going against what I said here about 2 weeks, because these are things that aren't you're in control. I mean, they have nothing to do with anything you guys have done.
Yes,
These were
I
things that we were
understand
led to
that.
believe were built-in
But it affects
parameters.
us, your things that you're saying. That's the thing.
No,
Why do you, how come you don't mess with the country club? They got a meeting.
It was built to the specifications
It's
that
10 foot
are,
wide, just like what we have out there.
Because yours wasn't.
And actually,
I mean,
Why is
it's
overall-
10
when
foot
you
wide.
think about it, we bought our
They're identical.
homes with that island in place. We spent the kind of money that we spent to have a neighborhood that looked like it did when we moved in, and now it does not.
It's yours, Ron.
What you're talking about up there, I don't have a problem with telling them they gotta take that flower pot out of there, because the flower pot's out of there, that's legal, right?
I don't want to pick on that particular area, but.
Well, then why'd you bring it up?
Why are you doing what you're doing to us and not touching them?
I'm fine, didn't I just say I'm fine with that? We'll go and tell
Fair
them, it's
question.
gotta go,
It's a fair question.
it's gotta go.
Is there an easement?
Plain and
I've never
simple.
seen when I've gone on the internet and tried to
No,
find an
when we okayed that up there, we did not okay them 2-foot flower pots, to the best of my knowledge. And as far as islands and other towns go, a lot of them I've gone and looked at, I believe the right-of-way is a lot wider. The island's a lot wider.
We've gone and.
Well, I know you're gonna argue with me about no matter what I
I'm
say,
just saying,
so.
we went to look and tried to find out. We've tried to do what we could to try to do our homework. We brought you information from big cities and various places that we could site that say
And
islands are healthy for neighborhood.
I still don't quite understand your proposed entrance, the width of the turn lane, 13 feet, when you don't have 13-foot turn lanes anywhere in town. Why do you think you need 13-foot wide? 10-foot is sufficient. Then if you use 10-foot, then the island,
I think you're applying different, you're comparing Tradition Drive turning off of Broadway is different from Pine Ridge turning off of 450. We're deferring to the rules that are in Sudas.
but that's a commercial, this is a commercial area, this is ours is residential.
That's exactly my point. There are different rules for different avenues to get into different residential, commercial environments.
So it should be that she shouldn't need 13-foot wide turn lanes, it should be able to be narrowed to 10.
Just in clarification, the 13 was because that was the width, that was based on actual width of pavement there without reconstruction. You had 26.
That was what was available?
Yeah. So it wasn't, if it was, we wouldn't have designed it that way if it wasn't built.
Right.
It's there, why pay to, have a little wider and not pay to reconstruct. So.
And in the interest of safety, this is why we were looking at spending the 300,000, whatever it was, to do 415 and add turn lanes in there. Yes.
Councilman Layton, to bring up your point is, the city's on the hook either now or potentially later. And so if you choose not to go with it, we don't pay anything right now. But if you,
Potentially later will be significantly higher than what it will be now.
I understand, but we don't pay anything.
If we can wait just till next year, it'll be substantially higher than it will be now.
So we have skin in the game now versus if we walk away, we won't have anything.
If we agree to this and you do the plannings, they're not gonna take place one way or another till the spring, right?
The plannings, yeah.
In April or whatever, so. I know I said I wouldn't say this, but I'm saying it. I'd ask legal to see if there's anything they can do to strengthen that enforcement language. I know you don't want to hear that, but
If I remember correctly when this, and I hate to beat this old horse to death, but when it happened, that island was put in there as small as it was, the right way as small as it was, with the option of taking the island out at a later time. And the next thing we know, there's a big stone, there's trees in it, everything else, with no site plan, no anything, they just appeared. And I made the motion at that time that they come out of there, and I couldn't get a second. So there they are, and now 12 or 14 years later, however it is, you guys are upset.
Well, and it's beautiful. It was beautiful. That was a standout entrance to Polk City. It was very welcoming. It drew all of us to the community, to Pine Ridge Estates. It was kind of like the wow factor. We wanted to keep the wow factor. We wanted the beautification to keep going on in Polk City. We didn't want it to go this far. We didn't think it would be this complicated.
Sure.
We wanted it to be simple and easy. Unfortunately,
And I think, and I think that we all had hoped that that would be the case, but I think we also knew when this process started back in June, or when you guys even met prior to that unfortunately this was probably the direction this was going to go. I mean, I think that several of us have talked in the offline that this was not going to be easy no matter what. It's not on us. It's just the process, and it's unfortunate that that's what it takes.
and planning and putting it there looks beautiful, you're right.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do that, but what you got to remember from our point of view, or anybody in this office really's point of view, is once you do that for your development,
Yep.
It's not going to be hard for anybody. Well, then why do we have SUDAS? Why do we have anything?
We are following the CDOS rules, though.
Right. No, I'm not arguing with you on that. That's what we asked you to do, and you did. Unfortunately, our
That's how this all
attorneys didn't do what they
started, was
said.
you can keep it as long as you follow CDOS, and now it's just
Well,
falling apart.
And
I apologize if that sounded like I meant to say anything that was insulting as far as what do you have to do, but we had met, Gary and I met, I think we talked, and it just keeps mushrooming, snowball. Here it is, all these months later, and we still don't have an answer. It felt so much like people were just trying to tear it out of there without any consideration for what the neighborhood wanted. it still feels that way.
How many people do you have in the Pine Ridge neighborhood, just roughly, do you know?
Well, there are going to be 60 new homes back behind us now.
No, but I mean, how many do you have right there?
80 to 100.
And how many did you collect signatures?
We handed out 150, we handed out 115 letters, and I ran out of letters. And you went just on the one street and had, I think, 40 or 50 signatures.
And that
So
was-
I'm guessing there's about 140 houses.
And there, so all those 140 jumped in the LLC and they do their,
At this point, we just set up the LLC, just due to the timing is, we just set up the LLC with us four at this point, but obviously, once this is approved, we're gonna go out and ask for more.
And we spent hours and hours working on this, so it's not like we have.
so is your city
do our
staff,
best.
attorney, engineer, administrator, and yeah, I get that, I understand that.
Well, I agree with what Julie said about when they got here, it was but that's not always, that hasn't always been the case. There was a time when it wasn't. There was a time when we had to go out and remove trees. There was a time, by we, I mean our people. And I remember I saw the work orders, they had to go out and prune trees. They took a tree completely out. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. They did it. So what you're saying is true, but it hasn't always been. And I think what everybody's saying up here is, yes, we have you guys' assurances, but since that sign's the only reason some of you moved to Polk City, when it's gone, you might move out, and then there's nobody there to take, you could move at any time, and there will be nobody there to take care of it. It will be back on us. Is that a fair statement?
It is, but I think the fair statement holds true for the TCI element too.
Pardon?
Anything in town. And we love.
I'm not arguing,
Just
well,
fine.
I'm glad to hear that, but
I think, legal, we've talked with a lot of legal things, and there was some question about, I don't know the exact term, but acquisition or some type of easement, you let it sit there so long, technically it could belong to you.
should belong to us.
Yes.
It does belong to us now.
Problem solved.
We own it now. Now that's just that we already do own it. We could just bulldoze it out, but we're trying to work with you.
Well, we could use that as a legal side too, so that's what you-
Do you intend ever to let a development have an island, or are you saying, when you say this idea of want to keep the rules the same, that this city will never have any diversity as far as how the entrances to various.
Our issues here aren't with an island.
Say that what?
The issues that we're talking about aren't with an island. They're with liability that comes with this particular island. Now, I do think that we said that if you, how do you put it, Dennis? If you meet SUDAS, go ahead. And I think that I'm so sick of dealing with this, but I do think that we need to honor that commitment that we made. And so I guess what I'm saying is, don't take things out of context with how it applies. This is Pine Ridge, this is specific to this issue. To my knowledge, the other islands that exist do meet our code, do meet SUDAS, all of those things. If they don't, then we need to address them.
Yeah.
But for this specific issue, we said that if you can come back, meet all the requirements, and I'm struggling between now saying that we're changing those requirements or clarifying those requirements versus what's in the best interest of the city in the long term. And I don't know, Dave, you want more on this?
All I have to say is 99.9%. It's actually 100% done on what we said that we required. And if there's other issues within the agreement, then that's not anybody's fault. Put blame wherever it may be, but to vote this down at this point would be just a waste of everybody's time and typically completely going against what we said we would do as a council. And those that voted yes, as long as the boxes were checked. I find it completely hypocritical for us to then come back and say, well, we're going to also make you do this now.
Well, there's a lot of hypocritical things that go on up here.
I understand, but
A
I'm
lot
just
of them
pointing one of
down
them.
there. And what I'm trying to say is, when we were going along this whole thing, as Dan well said, everybody believed that stuff was in there so that the city had some teeth in the game. So you don't pull something out of it's like saying Obamacare is a great deal and you're not going to lose anything. Oh wait, you are. Now it's not such a great deal, is it? Because nobody did their homework to make sure all those things were in line. So here we have something going forward where we think all these things are in line, and then somebody pulls a rabbit out the head and say that we had some crackerjack type agreement that the attorneys didn't know was not in there, and that's what's changing. I'm not saying I'm voting against it. I'm saying that even though I said 2 weeks ago that we weren't going to do it again, shame on us. Shame on our attorneys. Shame that we paid that damn bill tonight for somebody that didn't do their job. So yeah, this shouldn't be held against those people. You're dang right. We shouldn't. Do I wish I would have voted no at the beginning? You're very right. Am I going to go against that? No. But what I am going to do is hold our own people accountable. And if they don't want to do it for us for free, well, then I guess we need to look for a different attorney. Because this is about the third time that we've heard excuses. And this holds us all liable for things coming. It's not just this issue, it's others. So instead of just beat around the political correct bush and say, well, geez, we don't want to make somebody mad, we represent 4,000 people up here, not some friends in Pine Ridge. You are my friends. I've got a lot of friends down there, and this would be the same if it was in my neighborhood. But you just say it's hypocritical and we should just sweep it under the rug, that's not doing your job.
I wouldn't say that, but it's great statements.
Absolutely.
My concern about this whole thing is that I personally feel that the island needs to go just for safety reasons and everything else over there. And now it's only about half as big as it originally was, so I'm not sure about how pretty that'll be when it's smaller. But and whether it stays or not, I mean, whatever. But what concerns me is I was at that one, the last meeting, and my understanding was there was going to be some sort of commitment by individuals or some way so that if things didn't work, there was something the city could go after to help defray the cost of either maintaining it or help take it out and replace it so that it doesn't all fall back on the city at such times it has to be removed. I mean, sooner or later, people will get tired of looking after this stuff and putting money into this thing to pay for the maintenance or whatever. And unless you have an association that has an assessment, has an ability to assess and do those things, you're just relying on, the continued goodwill of the folks that are willing to do this. And that's all well and good as long as it goes that way, but you got to have some way to enforce it, whether it's a cash bond or whatever. And I live on Pine Ridge, and I'm not in favor of it. I'm not going to contribute to this thing, and I know there's some other neighbors around that aren't either. So if you took a vote, I'm not sure how it would actually come out. So anyway.
Mr. Mayor, may I address one issue?
Absolutely.
With regards to the agreement, I think it's important to recognize what it is that, as attorneys, we do. You'll note that the easement agreement is not signed. We don't have the authority to execute documents on behalf of the city, nor do we cut your deals. What this is a negotiated agreement between multiple attorneys to say, hey, this is as good as they're going to get. We don't have the ability to force the other side in a negotiation to say you're going to do this, just as what Council Member Mordini has heard here today. They said, we're not going to put up cash bond. So, as an attorney...
We asked for that, and they said no.
I wasn't part of that negotiation. I heard
So you don't know if you did that, is what you're saying. It sounds great what you're saying. It's a great talking point.
They just told us that. They told us that.
He's shaking his head now. No.
It was never brought up during our conversations with Amy and our attorney.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that this is a negotiated deal, and this is what they have agreed to do, and that is when it's presented back to the city council for your determination to say, is this good enough or not?
Well,
and that's why it's up for vote tonight.
The difference is that the parameters that we put forth that says that we have the ability to make ourselves whole in the worst case scenario. And I kind of agree with Rob that didn't come through. I also go back to they provided everything that we've asked them to provide. And that should have been asked 4 weeks ago, not today. Ken, you were going to raise your hand?
Yeah, let me help you just a little bit, I think, is that I think one of the things you can't do is you can't say, tear it out, keep it, tear it out, keep it. You can't do that. I mean, these people are here, they've got, in good faith, they've tried to do this. So I don't know what the answer is now. Maybe it is tear it out. I don't know. you guys will have to decide that, but the thing I can tell you that would help is require a 10-year maintenance bond and help them get one. So they can get a 10-year maintenance bond as easily as I can get one. Get a 10-year maintenance bond, they got a little bit of money, they can get that bond, you're indemnified.
What does a 10-year maintenance bond cost roughly? Anybody have?
It's roughly $1,000. So if you get a 10-year maintenance bond, you're done. It's
So if the city attorneys, for instance, want to help with that for $1,000 to keep their contract with the city, maybe they can do that.
I'm not gonna get
So to be
involved.
estimated cost. Okay.
So,
You're hired to represent our best interests and bring forward when our best interests aren't being met, not slide it under the table and keep everybody happy and collect your check at the end of the day.
So say what that was?
An estimated cost on a maintenance bond would be 10% of the cost of the final project.
Okay.
That would be an approximation. And they're routinely issued by companies such as Merchants or the like.
so I guess at this point, I don't know, if to put you on the spot is fair, but Dennis, you referenced earlier, it might not be worth moving ahead. Is that something you'd like us to pursue, or?
Is that fee, is that an annual fee or is it a one-time fee?
They're governed by the contract with the bonding company. Typically, you pay up front.
It's typically one time.
And how's that fee gonna be, I mean, how's that cost gonna be established?
I'm gonna stop real quick. This is what I was looking for. The original, I'm trying to go back for you a little bit here. The original agreement that started conversation between our attorney and their attorney did include a line that we could take that out. And I think in between negotiations back and forth, such as you were saying, I see right here where it was taken out.
What was taken out? I mean, our ability to I just think it comes back to the enforcement question, right?
Yeah. This was from, this one was one of the first ones that went through. I don't know. My point is, I believe that this was negotiated. Okay, go ahead.
Well, if I understand right, and I could be all wet, the minute we accepted that public improvement, i.e. that Pine Ridge Drive, we then had the right to take that island out right then, because it was ours, is that correct?
The island has always been in the city right of way.
Pardon?
The island has always been in a city right of way.
So,
there's not a spot in there that's not owned by the city. The city owns from right of way line to right of way line.
so we had the right to do that way back whatever year it was, but the council at that time chose not to. I split vote. And my contention is, had we done that then, these discussions wouldn't have happened because you guys would have never saw it.
Correct.
Pardon?
We just want, as part of the community, to make the community beautiful.
Yeah.
We've gone through all the steps. We thought it would be something easy, something worthwhile to do. And we've met those SUDAS requirements. And then that's when everything just started turning and turning and turning. So, I mean, what more do you want us to do? We've laid it all out there. We've gone up through the requirements. We've spent ample time on it. You guys have spent ample time on it. Legal has spent ample time on it. It's something, what more do we need to do? I mean, it sounds like you guys just basically want it out.
Well,
I think if you go back to when we initially had our conversation, March of 2015, when the DOT came to us and said, hey, we're doing Highway 415. Mike was in the room, we were in the room. And they said that they need to take out their piece they need to take out their piece. That island had not been maintained for years. We owned it. Just please listen to me. It had not been regularly maintained for years. Since Bachenstedts were no longer in the picture and we had mailed them the letter, they had broke the term of their agreement. And even if you guys had been maintaining it, we didn't have any record of who had been maintaining it. It was a problem for our staff, it was a problem for Public Works, and when they said, we're gonna take that piece out, honestly, we didn't think anybody cared about that island at all, and it was like, great, take it, because it's, right? It's a headache for staff. It's a headache for fire trucks to turn the corner. It's a headache for the plows to turn the corner. So we just made a decision at that point in time to move forward with that. Never in our wildest dreams thinking that this was gonna turn into the dilemma and quite honest nightmare that this has turned into between all of us, because we've all spent countless hours on this as well. It's not against the island. It's really just trying to figure out how this is going to work. When we've got our staff telling us we have a tough time turning our vehicles down there, we have a tough time with the plows, nobody's maintaining it. It hasn't been, and even if it has been maintained, we don't have an agreement with anybody. That's why we moved forward with saying we're going to take it out as part of the project. And then at the 11th hour, you guys came in admittedly and said, why are you taking it out, and accused me of splitting hairs. I wasn't trying to split hairs. We said we were taking out the island as part of the agreement with the DOT. It's nothing to do with trying to go against the wishes of Pine Ridge or anybody else. It was just trying to do what we felt at the time in the pre-construction meeting, and everything else that we had was the right decision to do. It's blown up. We've been dealing with this thing for almost 3 months now. And honestly, it's kept us from getting a lot of other projects done. One way or the other, we gotta get off dead center on this thing. I'm just,
I'm not gonna go back on my word. I mean, was it a horrible vote that I made to support what has come forward? I do believe that, but I'm not gonna go back on what I told you. You guys did that and everything else, but what I am gonna do, whether anybody likes it or not, is I'm gonna ask our legal to figure out the pickle that we're in because they did not represent our best interests. And if that means they pay your 10-year bond, I think that'd be great, because we shouldn't be paying them $700 when they're not representing what the city's best interests were, and that we understood, and even Mr. Dietz heard the same language out of our mouth. So, shame on them if it's okay just to negotiate across it and hope nobody recognizes it. That's not your fault. I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm not at anything, but if he doesn't want to say anything, I understand he's not there, that's fine, but it needs to be some serious discussions going forward on what we expect from a city as far as our attorneys. So, that's my opinion. So either we delay it, in my opinion, 2 weeks, or that's not the way we understood this agreement. I don't know about you, Dan, that's the way I'm understanding where you're coming from. Exactly. Same with Mr. Dietz in the audience. If it's not going to be planned until April, it's not going to cost, correct me if I'm wrong, anything to you guys to let us meet our obligation here.
Like we said, we were going to just, de-weed it, put mulch down for the winter, but that's.
Right. It truly is not geared at all towards you in the room. Thank you. I'm sorry that you had to hear all this, but it's very disheartening.
Mr. Dan has something to say, right? Did you have your hand up? Well, I just want to say that, and I'm not trying to put anybody on a spot, but Dennis and I had a lengthy discussion over this when it all started. And I don't know, Dan, if you did, or Dennis, if you didn't understand me, but my opinion has not changed, has it?
I know where you stand.
And I told you in the very beginning that I didn't want, and the reason I was being honest and telling you that right now, or right then, was because I didn't want you to put a lot of time and money into it. That was my original conversation. Right or wrong. Because that's who I am.
And I apologize, Ron, because you were right, and I wish I could rewind life, but I'm not going to go back on my word.
I'm going to take a note of that.
You were. I knew it that night, and you proved it, so. But I'm not going to go back on what I told 34. Go ahead.
I'm not the kind of guy to say I told you so.
That's your risk.
Billy, would it be possible to go back and put several of those clauses in to the agreement? Council takes no action tonight. Send to Pat White the new agreement based on council discussion tonight, and whether or not Pine Ridge Estates Island Management LLC signs it or doesn't sign it, that will be up to them.
That's what we can do, but we can't force them to agree to it.
Right. So if they don't have us,
We can't force them to agree to any particular provision. We can, however, the council, if they see fit to say, this is the agreement, and it is gonna have a real property backup. It is gonna have a bond backup requirement. If there are specific requirements related to, what the council is demanding, we can put it in there, and it will be presented as, this is a take it or leave it. If you don't agree to this provision, it's not gonna be approved. But we would need the direction to say, what is it that has to be, specifically has to be in the agreement in order to get it approved, or is it a take it or leave it? I mean, is it a bond requirement? I would like to have that direction. Are we saying that it has to be tied to real property? Are you saying it has to have a bond backup? And if a bond backup, is it a paper bond? Okay, a surety, if you will. Or are you wanting a cash bond requirement?
I'm saying the city would, Mike personally, would like some protection in this as we believed it was at the beginning. And I'm also saying that since, whether it was you or not at your firm, was very well aware of the direction that the council puts, I think you share some responsibility in that. I don't think we should pay your bill for this. You did not follow the will of the council as being directed.
What is your will?
The same thing that Mr. Dietz heard, the same thing that Dan's heard, and everything else.
With all due respect, is it a real property backup? Is it a bond
It's
requirement?
protection for, I don't care which way you go with that. That's why we pay an attorney to do this. But the city needs to be protected, so we don't end up like we had with the streets up here on the golf course. That lo and behold, right after, if you remember right, Ron and everybody else, after those 2 years or whatever, it's like, oh geez, we don't have anything to come back on.
The best way to ensure that would be to put $25,000 on cash with the city. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, that's what I'm asking for you.
That
I
would
think what
certainly
he's saying
protect.
is we needed some mechanism to recover whatever additional costs we're incurring by going down this path. But I want to do that in a way that's amenable to what they want. I don't think that they want to put 25 grand up. I don't think that's reasonable to do. But right now we have nothing. We would like something. And I don't think it's unreasonable to ask an attorney to say, qualify something. Is that enough for you?
Yeah, there is a continuum of collectability. Okay, there is going to be a risk unless you take full amount in cash on deposit with the city. There will be a risk.
Understand that.
Okay,
But but we don't have any of that now. And I don't want to put something forward to them that's going to break the bank for them to be able to do this on a contingency if something falls through. Can we work with them to say, here are 3 options that would be acceptable to us, which fits into you, which works best for you?
and then make that proposal, bring that proposal
Exactly.
back to the council.
And whether or not I like what my vote was, I said what I said, and I'm not gonna be up here and kill a deal tonight because you met what you met, and we didn't realize that something else wasn't met on our end. That's not fair to you.
Ron?
This conversation all needs to take place somewhere else. We shouldn't be having this in an open meeting and just going on and on and on.
And it shouldn't have been allowed to continue for the last 10 years.
Yeah, beating this same issue. We need to move on. Our attorney needs to talk to their attorney. Mr. Mahana needs to be involved. He knows what our wishes are. And if we're gonna move forward, let's move forward. Now, that's not gonna say that my vote's gonna change, but we can't stay here and
Couldn't agree more. No, Cubs start.
keep beating this same horse.
Is that acceptable to you?
Well, I mean, I'll just speak for us is, I mean, we're not in the position to put $25,000 on deposit with the city. We're just.
Not asking that.
We're not interested to do. You know, we would look at the bond, the performance bond thing. Beyond that, the 3 options that we heard tonight. I mean, we would talk about that, but we're not gonna put cash on, we just don't have those resources.
Understand.
We're not gonna do an easement on property.
Okay, so is direction that we're not gonna take any action again?
That would be my recommendation at this time, Mayor.
Okay.
We'll bring back an agreement that is more in line with the beginning agreements that we started with.
Acceptable to everybody up here?
Yeah, I just have one more comment. Renee said about signs. Yeah, signs are great. We have 4 ourselves for the city, but our signs meet the letter of the law. And if there's other signs out there that don't meet the letter of the law, they need to go. That's simple.
Our entrance signs, I think, is where he's at with that, right?
Pardon?
Our entrance signs.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even bring that up, did I?
No, but you said there were other signs around town that TCI has them and they're beautiful for the city. You guys, I mean, somebody said that, it wasn't me, and they are. We spent money on them and we have 4 of them ourselves, but they meet the letter of the law.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned it. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, I apologize.
All right,
I apologize.
we'll come back in 2 more weeks. Mayor's report, I had things and I'm just going to avoid them, so I'll just thank the tree board for their work on cleaning up in front of City Hall and their work on the square and getting some replantings going. I know that they met and kind of went crazy over there, and I appreciate their hard work over there. With that, I'm just going to leave it there. Ron?
I really don't have anything to report. I'm just going to say that if that island's a big thing that brought people to town, then we failed completely as a council.
Dan?
The only thing I have is something I've noticed, all of a sudden, the parking on East Broadway, just on the other side of Second there by the dance studio, people have taken to angle parking there instead of parallel. And when you have vehicles angle parked there, it effectively makes that a 1-lane road. You have to drive into the parking area for Donna's old place. I don't know who owns that now, the brick building. And since they put a sign up that says no trespassing, private parking, there's no sign there that says how people should park. But I'm wondering what is even the ordinance on that?
In front of the new art studio. Is that what you're talking?
Yeah,
It should be,
on East Broadway.
should be parallel parking there.
There's,
I don't know, I have to look.
there's not sufficient room there to angle park it. It effectively makes it a 1-lane road. So,
Anything else?
that's all I have.
Dave?
Nothing.
Mardini? Rob?
I just have the energy for one thing that I need to bring up because finally the park at the square opened up last week, and I think so far it's been received very well. I think that Mike and his team need recognized for that work. There's a lot of people that were involved obviously, but I know Public Works did a lot to get that done, and it looks great. It's still in transition with the fence and everything, but just want to thank you guys for the work that they did.
Any other council discussion? City Administrator?
I have nothing at this time.
Attorney's report?
Nothing.
Engineer?
And then you're on.
Public Works?
Nothing.
Technology?
I'm just gonna say that the marquee sign is up and installed. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. They're on the square, working out a couple of little kinks on the communication side of things, but everything else is going good.
Jake, thanks for that. I know I've been bugging you guys about it for quite some time. It does look really nice. Finance?
The only thing I have is our auditors were in about a week ago. They were here for 2 days, and we had a very good audit this year, and we should be getting the audit report by the end of the year.
Nice work.
If I might
Yep.
piggyback on that. I've been in city government for 40 years. I've never seen an audit. 40 years.
Feels like kindergarten.
Sorry, I just had to
I
ask.
have never seen an audit done in 2 days. Never.
Good job. Fire Department?
I'm exhausted. It's Fire Prevention Week, so we had our pancake breakfast and open house on Saturday, and we go to the schools on Tuesday, and it's a citywide fire drill on Tuesday night. So when you hear the tornado sirens, there is not any severe weather. We're going around checking people's escape plans and handing out candy to the kids. That's always a question that comes up, so that's all I got.
Police Department?
Only thing I have is that my report will be at the next council meeting. Usually I do it the first council meeting of the month, but Dustin was on vacation. He compiles the statistical portion of that. So I'll have the police department monthly report at the next meeting.
So good cut next month. That's good. Library?
Just if you have time to please go on our website and check out our calendar. We've got a lot of neat things going on. Tonight we started on 99th family story time. And we've got a real neat program coming this Thursday night. So just check out our website.
Council liaison?
Those issues that are brought up to the city administrator, I'll take them offline.
I've got one more thing to add. Gary reminded me that Beggars Night is October 30th. It's by resolution. We're not going through what we used to go through years ago, so it is Sunday night, regardless of what anybody says. With that, I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn, second.
All in favor?